better and Mondays.
So we're going to go ahead and get starting.
That's good news.
Very good.
We have a busy agenda tonight, so we're going to go ahead and get started, gentlemen. Convene the regular meeting of the Urban Renewal Commission for Wednesday, June 18, 2014, and take roll call.
Commissioner Mengelberg? Here. Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Benville?
Here.
Commissioner Neely?
Here.
Commissioner Mum?
Here.
Commissioner Roth? And Chair Pauley.
Here. We're going to move on to citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments tonight?
Yeah, you can do that now.
Okay. Welcome.
Yes, indeed. Perfect timing. My name is Ed Darrow, developer of The Cove. I wanted to give you an update where we are with Boley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it has not been an enjoyable process with them. We submitted probably a 20-page document in this last round. Half of that was legal, half of it was backup. They just gave us a one-page rebuttal and said, we don't agree. So we're going to go in front of the hearings officer, and I talked to them today. They said they're going to assign it to a prosecutor tomorrow, and I'll call and find out what our timing is. So I wanted to come in and request an extension, probably 60 to 90 days, just to make sure we have enough time.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for the extension?
What I'll do, I'll bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay.
We can formally approve that.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Thank
Thank you.
Okay, adoption of the agenda. Are there any causes not to adopt the agenda? Okay, we will adopt it. General business. The first thing we have is 14-348, 1001, 1005 Main Street Storefront Grant Extension Request. Staff report.
So we have received a request from grant awardee, storefront grant awardee, from 1001 to 1005 Main Street, which is on the northwest corner of 10th and Main. They have been working on that project, and their deadline, or their due date, is July 17th, 2013, or 14. That's when, let me step back. It's 2014. They were awarded the grant on July 17th, 2013. So the criteria for the grant states that they have 12 months to complete the project. They're not going to make that. And so a letter was submitted to my office requesting an extension due to the following reasons. Final cost estimates came in higher than expected, resulting in the need to rebid the project. There were some permitting complications. There were challenges with contractor coordination, so by the time they were ready to go, a lot of the contractors that they had on board were on other jobs at the time, so they had to re-coordinate that. I think they had some, as far as the permitting complications, they had some extra communications with Public Works Department, and the applicant's here. Maybe he can explain that a little bit, but I'm not too privy on the details of that. And then there were lead times for custom-built transoms and canopies are longer than what they initially assessed. And for those reasons, they were asking for a 60-day extension. But they believe that they would be completed before that 60-day extension. This is also a strategically identified site between the city and Metro, and so they have received a grant from Metro for this project as well. Metro has since approved an extension for them to September 30th of this year. So that's all I have. If you have any questions of me.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Eric? Okay, I see we have...
I just wanted to, is this the one that we see that's actually being done now?
Yes, it's right across from
Right.
Dutch Brothers there.
Right.
We have Stephen Blindheim. Would you like to come up and say something?
Stephen Blindheim, owner of the building, and just reporting on the progress to date. And I'm sorry about the delays, but that just seems to be a natural due course these days. It's unfortunate. But we are making progress. We had a meeting today with the architect and the contractor. We currently have demolished the canopy. You've probably seen that. We have the scaffolding up for safety reasons and so forth, because they have had to do some demolition in addition to the canopy, demolition for the transom windows that we're going to install. And there were some issues, as there are with any old building, in terms of structural support and making sure that we were going to be able to support the transom and the new canopy that's going to be going up. So we've had to consult our structural engineers and have them come down and check on a few things. But things are progressing. The demolition has been done for the transom windows, and they are currently being fabricated, as well as the canopy. We have the new HVAC in 2 of the units installed, and we've engaged all major contractors or subcontractors that will be doing the work, plaster and framing and so forth, electrical. So we're making progress. We met today. We're anticipating, we were trying to hire a lot of local contractors too. That was another reason for one of the delays, was that due to the up speed of construction within Greater Portland, we've had a lot of subcontractors that have been pulled off on other jobs, partially as a result of the delay of our job. So getting them back on track was a little bit challenging, but we now have them back on track, but it's just taking longer than we anticipated. So any other specific questions?
Does anybody have any other questions of him?
Well, explain to me the issue with Public Works. Is
Yeah,
that you
what happened
referred
was,
to?
yes, and it's been since resolved, but basically we did not anticipate having to have the scaffolding installed for safety and so forth. We have safe work practices, of course, but Public Works was wanting us to provide that scaffolding so that there would be adequate protection for any customer, anybody coming and go. So we understand that. So, we had to. There was a delay then, and back and forth, and our contractor made a presentation, and Public Works didn't like what he came up with. So, we got together and we worked it out, and came up with a scaffolding that was going to work, and it just ended up being a couple-week delay, but we got it worked out, and everything's fine. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. I know these projects always require lots of patience,
yes.
and there's always more to it than
Yes.
one thinks. So.
All right.
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you.
What's the length of the extension request in 60?
60 days. It'd be September 13th.
I'll move to extend the agreement for 60 additional days.
Second. You're going to
Oh,
make
we've got
your
to do this
motion.
thing? Second?
Or not?
Yeah.
Did you second it?
I do have a
She
second.
doesn't know
Oh,
about
the
the screen.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, she's not. No, just say. No, you should say that.
All right. Very good. We look
She
forward
did
to
it
having that
for you.
project done. That'd be great.
And one
You
more
gotta
from
have it.
Renata.
Renata.
Very good.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is 14-344, storefront grant for 707 Main Street, T5 Equities LLC. Staff report?
So, yes, Madam Chair. So, looking out in the audience, the applicant's not here at this time, so I would request that we go down to 14-345.
So
Until
we'll
the
move that to
applicant-
next meeting?
No,
Well,
until
they
the
might
applicant
be
shows
here.
up. He's on his way. He's just stuck in traffic.
Oh,
He's
okay.
in traffic.
Okay, sounds good. So 14-345, storefront grant for 804 Main Street.
Thank you. This is the Bush Building. The storefront grant is for the 8th Street facade, kind of finishing up what was done on Main Street there. The project is very consistent to what was done on Main Street. A lot of he's requesting $40,000, and the review committee reviewed the grant request and had a site visit, We do feel that he is restoring that facade back to its original condition. There's a lot of work that's being done there. So we are recommending approval of $40,000. And I'll just give you some detail of what he's doing. So the project will consist of restoring the failing and eroded mortar and masonry and painting the facade as well. Restoring and reconstruction of the cornice detail, restoring and repairing existing wood windows after removing original wood louvers that are there, and restoring both the storefront and cast iron on the east end of the elevation. And the cast iron is at one pole or two poles, I believe?
It's two.
It's two poles that historically had a storefront there that kind of had some windows in the cast iron poles, and I think it's one of the very few cast iron posts like that anywhere. And so they're going to be restoring that, which we thought was a unique element.
That is awesome.
So, and then they'll have that new storefront there on the 8th Street side. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions of Eric? Andy, would you like to come up? And that part of the building seems very, very long, and I don't know if it gets more weathered, but it seems like it's had a lot of damage, so it's pretty exciting to get that restored. And
that's a yes
big project
on both sides of that. It is longer than the front, so the costing is a little bit different, and it does get all of the weather that seems to come from the south. So there's more erosion than what we saw on Main Street. So the project's almost the same, but with a little more effort putting into restoring some of the cornice and some of the mortar.
It's a great project. Does anybody have any questions for Andy while he's up here?
I don't have Andy.
Okay. All right.
Can I share something?
Yes.
So with, our city's help and Urban Renewal's help in 2011-12, we were selected for Oregon Main Street's Historic Building Renovation Excellence Award.
Wow.
And so, not just because I have it here, but the whole city, meaning the city of Oregon City, took part in this. And we went to the consortium that was held in Astoria this fall, and I'll tell you guys what, Oregon City was held up on a pedestal. This project was part of it. A lot of the speakers that were there were referring to Oregon City that were from all parts of Oregon. So with these kinds of programs really are showing up as this ripple effect. Michelle Reeves was a guest speaker there, and she spoke a little bit about not just my project, but the overall downtown. So these programs are really vital to what you see happening downtown, and we see it and hear it daily from people who are going to other things than my store. Just you hear it on the sidewalk. So thanks.
That's great. That'd be a good picture with the Main Street manager holding up that award together. Yeah, there you go.
Matching shirts and everything.
Yeah.
And excuse my casual attire. We're offsetting carbon today. We rode our bikes, so.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
You guys should
That's
stand
great.
together right now so we could get a picture.
Yeah,
there you
that'd be
go.
a good picture.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work, Andy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move to approve grant request for 804 Main Street.
Second.
And do you want some discussion?
I have a question more to staff.
Yeah.
And it's more on the scoring. We see the staff report, and I look at the staff members and the comments and the score points. And it really becomes evident on the one that we skipped. When we have comments like from Eric that the grant request is acceptable as submitted. So, and he says that on each one of them. It's always the same comments.
Eric Walgren.
So you would think that, okay, they should get all 60 points.
Yeah.
It should be consistent. So and it seems like it's always the same statement, but his scoring is different in each application. So I'm just kind of understanding why that is.
Well, that's basically, that comment is basically referring to its completeness. So it's acceptable as submitted, meaning there are no other requirements. There are no other things that need to be included in the application packet. No other questions that he has at that point. It's not necessarily related to the actual scoring, which comes later in the criteria on the checklist. So that you're talking about the first page here, where it has grant request is acceptable as submitted, or approval of the grant request would not conflict with our interest provided the changes noted required by the applicant, whether or not building permits are needed, and then the following items are missing.
Actually, I was just looking at the matrix, and it has Mike Roberts, Eric Walgren, it has all five of you there, and then you have your points. So, and for the most part, everyone has some pretty applicable comments to make about their review. Mm-hmm. And I just found that his was pretty generic on all the staff reports that I saw today in the agenda.
Because he didn't provide any on the lines below. And so I think the comments this was just considered his comment.
Yeah, so
maybe that's a point of confusion that needs to be clarified.
There's a breakdown that we don't see,
yeah,
where everybody has all their comments. So the comments we see, they're just taking that one basic general.
Okay.
Okay. All right, are we ready to vote? It's been moved and seconded. All right.
And approved unanimously.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item. Let's see here. Is 707 here yet?
Just walked in.
Okay, great. We will pick up that one then. Storefront grant for 707 Main Street, T5 Equities. Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
thank you.
We'll hear the staff report first.
Okay. Well, this is a facade grant application for 707 Main Street. This is Masonic Temple. This is Masonic Lodge. Staff reviewed the application, which was complete, and had a site visit with the applicant. The scoring did not meet our minimum threshold of 70%. I believe it came in at 61%. I believe the general consensus of this from the committee was the fact that this project basically consisted of a repaint and nothing else. So that's why the scoring was kind of low. It didn't meet other elements that were in the criteria. So staff at this point is not recommending approval of the application due to the scoring from the committee. So,
Do we have any questions for Eric or the applicant? Rocky?
No questions, I guess, but and I think it was at the last meeting we had a similar. We had a discussion about paint.
Yes.
And I, in the past and even recently, have said, well, if the project is just paint, I have a hard time, supporting that. And then you have this application, which is really, I don't see as that at all, because it's paint followed by the first step of the project that they've already done. So I don't really see it as it is a separate application. I have a hard time with this one because it is an addition to what has already been done to the building. It is a building in which the paint in itself is going to be the major component of what this building is visually. It's a little different, I think, than just painting a generic building. So this one I'm having a problem with because I can see it kind of fitting in all of these different topics that we've talked about. It is by far one of the most important buildings in the downtown. It is one that has always needed help, and I think this is the one last step to bring it up to the level that we all think that building can be. At the same time, the discussion that we had last week kind of fits in here. So I'm having a tough one with this one, but I think my separation with this one would be just that if we've had other grants that have come to us that have been strictly about painting without any intention of doing anything else to the building. I don't think this is one of those because so much work has already been done to the first floor. Would it have been easier if it was all came to us all at once? Maybe, but I don't know how realistic that was at the time either. So I guess I would hope that everyone else would make some comments about it before we just made a decision. But I think this is one building that we have all talked about in Oregon City for a long time, and I would kind of hate to just see us completely overlook it. But
Well, we do have some more comments. Commissioner Benville.
Yeah, and I know that it seems like the applicant wants to say something. Do you want to do that
I
first?
just wanted to address that before we left it, if I
Yes.
could. So we did actually propose to do this back when we did phase one.
okay,
And there was a whole huge thing that came about, and actually I think there was some misinterpretation about. So this was all one application initially,
Originally, yeah.
and then one of the members actually recommended that we do it in two phases, and they said, go get this done, and bring it back, and then come back for the next phase, and then we'll be expecting you to come back. So
Right.
so this is the revisiting of that. We actually our preference was to get this all done at once, and so we've kind of gone down the road. Here's what we followed through on our commitment, and here's phase two. And honestly, it's in our eyes, we feel like it's way more than just a paint job. I don't think I've ever seen it detailed out quite like this. Historical photos, I think that adds a ton of character. We are going to be repairing the damaged wood frames around the windows. We are going to be repairing all the damage, all the cracks, and all the. There's a lot of remnants from old signs that are just protruding from the building.
right.
And so, in our eyes, it's way more than just a paint job, and it really is the last half of the initial application that we put forward, and we're recommended to come back.
Thank you for that explanation. It's helpful.
If I may add to, the committee really did like the paint and the color scheme, and we thought it made an improvement. But the way the scoring sheet is,
Yes.
that it ended up scoring kind of
And
low.
you guys, yes,
So.
yes.
Do you plan on putting in new windows at some point? Because I noticed that was one of the comments that it was
Honestly,
paint,
it's a
not new.
cost.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
was
cost
just
thing.
curious.
We would love to. This is. There's so much cost here that is involved, interior and exterior. The state of the building has been let go for numerous years. We found some asbestos issues. We're following DEQ and OSHA standards to correctly have those abated and taken care of, so everybody is safe. That honestly is our other than finishing the exterior, which we feel would benefit from, because it's so visible from 99. It's visible from the bridge. It's visible from Main Street both ways. It's visible from this upper, from the elevator, from
The bridge.
from the falls. Yeah. So I mean, it's so.
So this is all sides of the building.
It's all sides
Yeah.
of the building, and it's every single side of the building is visible. So, but we definitely feel like this is a good investment of our time for not only us, but for T5 Equities, but also for the community, and for. I mean, I think it's it's been a long time since anything has ever been done, and for it to happen on your guys' watch, I think is.
Well, we have some more questions, but please stay up in case somebody has another question for you. Commissioner Benton?
Yeah, so this is a good example of using that matrix of scoring where, Eric's was just grant request acceptable as submitted, but I really look at some of the comments like, I wish they would have replaced the windows. So I really get some of that feedback from that in the relationship of how you score it. So I'd like to see maybe a little bit more than that, and it seems to be repetitious on very much the other applications. With that said, I totally agree with Rocky in regards to kind of an extension of your application back in 2012 and 2013, even though I don't know what that scope of work was. But I mean, if this was just a paint job, it would be painted white like it is now, versus some very detailed highlighted painting schematic, and plus you're doing a lot of repairs to the brick, and it is such an important building in downtown Oregon City, and I would hate to see this one go because of some scoring matrix that I'm still kind of scratching my head on. But I do hope that you will continue to take advantage of the storefront grant and maybe look at getting some windows because energy reasons and everything else. So
I want to.
I think that's about all I had.
Okay. Commissioner Mengelberg?
Did have a question for the applicant. It's not clear to me which color scheme you were leaning toward, the orange or the green. Had you made a decision on that?
So we were recommended to put all three schemes up and to actually paint some of the detail and take a look at how they look. Our original design, we actually landed on, submitted it, and then recognized that a lot of buildings have a similar red tone. So I'm like, well, maybe we need to revisit this. And we honestly didn't know if this was going to get approved this time through, if there was going to be other applications, and we didn't want swatches of paint sitting on it for a year. Because we can't afford to do this on our own. So we didn't want it to sit for a year, and we really want to see it before we paint the whole thing in a color that would be a bummer. So that's why. Basically, we wanted to submit. We're working with Jessica Eisland, going off of a historic swatch, the option historic book or whatnot that they're pulling the colors from, and so she basically has laid out those three options. And actually, there's one more option that has a blue in it that we want to put all four options on there. I discussed that with the staff, and we want to make the best decision from what's up and what actually looks good with the surroundings.
Okay, so I did have some comments. I'm with the two other commissioners in support of this particular project because, as you say, it's such a prominent, tall building that's very visible. I'd encourage you to add a little value to the back of it because that's what people see when they're going on 99, and it's pretty plain right now, and it could use a little bit of interest in addition to the great proposal you have for the front. I think this proposal builds on, I believe the city had done a rehabilitation grant on the inside as well, so it's part of a bigger package. Is that true?
Not on this.
The
Not on
lower
this
building.
entryway or the
Just the facade.
facade.
Just
On
the
front
facade.
Just the
was
front.
another right.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Over the
So-
years, it had taken on a few different shapes and awnings, and so we returned it to as original as we could find. The historical photos returned that to.
So having it be a more attractive building will help in leasing it up in a multi-story building, which is what you want in Main Street. You want to have a lot of businesses and residences or whatever, have the buildings full to generate more activity. So that's great. I think that's it.
Okay, good comments. Mayor Neely?
My questions are going to be to Mr. Underwood.
Yes.
And you were involved in the previous application.
Yes.
And did you recommend to go into more than one phase on this at that time?
I did not recommend that. No. the commission decided to
I
do
was
that.
going
Do
to
it that
say
way.
it was
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
that-
that's
yeah.
right.
So
That's
we
what I-
we look
that's what I
at
was thinking.
yeah.
Yes.
Was the full amount of money awarded at that time? That full amount?
No, it was reduced somewhat, but it was more than 20,000. I believe it was like 32 or something like that.
I thought it actually was 20. I could be wrong, but I thought we were asking for.
I have to go
I
back and
think
see.
we were asking for
But
32.
the full
and
amount of
came-
money was not allocated?
It was not
at that
allocated, no.
possible, okay.
No.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Benfield?
Actually, I remember my last question, and it was one that I asked Eric was, do we have enough money to accept all of these grants? And I think you said that we do,
We
right?
do. If we awarded all of these grants tonight, we would still have enough for another round in January.
Okay.
Yes.
Good question. All right. David Fraser?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that the staff's role in this thing is to look at this matrix, flawed as it may be, because it's a matrix, right? And our job is to look at that and make a recommendation based on just the matrix. And it seems sort of, there's going to be times when this group is going to want to find exceptions to that, and we're comfortable with that. We just have to, we still have to be follow the form. And I think on this one comment that Commissioner Benville brought up, I think that we're going to change the language on there, because I think the language says the grant request is complete, and we're going to change that to say the grant application is complete, because the application request, because that's what it is. It's basically the engineer saying all the required documents have been submitted, the application's complete. That's a common thing you do in planning, and it misled at least some people here to think it was something more than that. So
It's a pre-review statement, so it's before
It's
they
not
even
the actual
review the
scoring.
application. So
we'll fix that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Jonathan Stone, do you have a comment? Come on up. Welcome.
Commission, Jonathan Stone, Director of Main Street, Oregon City. I just want to speak on behalf of the work that Chris and T5 are doing, and I'm hopeful because I keep hearing comments that I was going to say. So you've taken some of the words out of my mouth, and I hope that's a good news in a sense for his application, because I would say that the Masonic Building is sort of the odd one out downtown.
It's not the odd.
It's not the odd ones. Okay, well, just in terms of its size, its location, its visibility, and that even if it's quote unquote just a paint job, a cleaned up facade of the building would add immense value to downtown in terms of being a huge transition for the public to see as changes are being made. So if this grant is the difference between doing the project this year versus 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, I would say that the Urban Renewal Commission would experience its return on investment very much so if it chose to fund this project, because the sooner it's painted, the sooner it looks good. It's one strong message to the community and potential new investors downtown to continue to invest in our downtown. So,
beautiful.
Thank you.
I believe that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Graham Peterson? Welcome.
Thank you. Graham Peterson, Oregon City. So I remember Michelle Reeves had a presentation, and she showcased a few buildings that were like pretty much strictly paint job examples of really good renovations to buildings. And so if you look at the Masonic Lodge, you look at the detail work, and you look at how bland of a paint job is, you really don't see that. But the character's there, and it just needs something to kind of make that pop. And so I think the matrix will always be what it is, and you guys have to make those judgment calls, and that's why you're up here. But if you feel like a project is valid, I think you need to look beyond the matrix and support it. I think the consensus will be people will understand that you made a judgment call and that it was the right judgment call. So that's just my my input. So thank you.
Oh, that's great. And to clarify, Michelle Reeves was the one doing the Metro workshops. For
Street dialogue
Street
and,
dialogue,
yes, all of that.
exactly, and had great suggestions for main streets and how they can be
It's the one
enhanced.
that coined the phrase "the black awning of death."
That's right.
Yes.
Oh, that's her. Okay, she's famous.
I think it was the blue one.
What building was
Blue
that?
awning. Blue awning of death. Yeah.
It's gone now. And now it's a gem. So that's, yes, it is. Commissioner Munn.
I think the paint job, it's more than just a paint job, I agree. But I think that we do have to look at that as part of what we are willing to give. And since it's not just going to be white on white, like a normal paint job, I think personally there should be an exception and it should be approved.
Mayor Neely.
What I'm going to request is that after we've had the motion, I've got something to follow up on, and before we go on to the next item, I'd like to speak to it. But I think we can go on with this action, and then permit me to speak afterwards.
Okay. I just have one comment too. I consider this more than a paint job also because of the detail of the paint involved, and also because you're using historic colors, so you're trying to bring that and you're trying to accentuate the existing architecture that's already there that you cannot see. And it's such a massive building and you're doing all sides of it. Paint is expensive when you multiply it by that many square feet. So do I hear a motion?
I do. I thought I put it there. Yeah. So I move to approve the grant request to 707 Main Street storefront grant.
Second?
We're just waiting for it to pop up. It's coming.
Just do it. Okay. Commissioner Mum,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. You guys decided to say no to the grant.
did.
So we are actually, the motion should be to approve and not
Right.
approve the denial, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure.
Right.
Yeah, I think you did. Did you?
I want them to have the money.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Okay, I'll start again. Commissioner Mum,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Benville,
Aye.
and Chair Polly.
Aye. Thank you so much for being here and explaining
Yes.
everything
You guys
to
very
us.
much.
That's very
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What, if I might, now, what I came to Commissioner Nickelbert's reference to the back of the building, we do see these extensions of grants coming in. You do one front and then you do the other frontage. And they're called storefront grants. I don't know that it prohibits from doing anything to the back of it.
No.
But we've had discussions too about murals. And a lot of this work, really the murals kind of disappear because they don't really function. The backs of those buildings might be great opportunities for those kinds of things, and we might want to have this as a discussion topic at one time or another, whether we want to have a different kind of applications. And we've got the storefronts, we got the adaptive reuse, but whether there are things that fit well in the back of the building, it occurs to me that murals might be one of those things. So this is something maybe for a study session or something like that.
We might, and that was brought up at an earlier meeting.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, I
talked
think
about
we-
that, and I think the consensus was that we needed to look into the sign code first,
Right.
because right now they're considered signs.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that would be the first step in doing that. And so we can certainly do that working with the Community Development Department, but we might need to have a work session starting with the sign code first.
Yeah.
And also on that note, Eric, there's been talk about alleyways too. Would that kind of be part of it? Alleyways and backs of buildings
Yeah.
and other. Okay.
Certainly. Certainly.
Okay. Good comment. Okay, so now we are moving on to. Let's see here. The storefront grant for 517 Main Street.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a building that has sat dormant for, I think, almost 30 years, a little over 30 years. That's finally been activated, thanks to the applicant. But they've got a mixed use in there. They've got a martial arts business, they've got a clothing boutique, and they've got offices upstairs. And they are doing some improvements. However, they are applying for a grant to kind of help try to finish up those improvements. They have a few items remaining that they need help with, and that includes, I guess they're calling it Phase 2. It includes paint and stucco repair, installation of 2 steel storefront awnings, and blade sign infrastructure. Staff reviewed the application, and we went on a site visit, and it's a very, you wouldn't think, but it's at a very prominent location in Oregon City. As you're coming off the bridge, people making that loop onto 99. It's one of the buildings you see. So we're approving, for those reasons, we're approving the full requested amount, which is $5,000 for that project.
Are there any questions for Eric?
My only comment was you can't get much for $5,000.
Yeah, it's true. Move to approve.
I second that.
Storefront grant
So do you
for
recommend giving
517.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 14-351, Amendment Number 1 to the Personal Services Agreement with Bricks Contracting for a revised work scope for the Amtrak Station project.
Madam Chair, I would like to request that we put this item on a future agenda. There have been some things that have occurred with this project where the current proposal needs to be re-amended. Due to the amount of the project from the recent proposal, it's now considered a BOLI project. So it takes a different approach. We need to step back and rebid the project. I need time to talk with my contractor and architect for an approach on this. It also requires prevailing wage, so that means the proposed amount is no good.
Okay, so this will come back for us for the at the next meeting.
Hopefully, there's no guarantee. As soon as I can. As soon as I can.
This is a disappointment because I know a lot of people are,
Yes.
or a few people are counting on this.
I get emails from some folks wanting updates, and so I know there's some angst out there. They want to see the project completed, and it's just obstacles like this that have been thrown at us that we've had to overcome. So it's just another one.
And this is the second time that we're dealing with BOLI recently. So was there any, was this foreseen at all that this might be a problem on this project?
No.
Okay.
This proposal just came in not too long ago, and we were just informed that it would be a BOLI project. So, and it was what.
So how does that work? How does BOLI reach out and touch you and say it's mine?
They haven't. We were. It was brought to our attention by Public Works, and they were just thinking that it might be, and so I did some research, and it does meet the threshold. So if it's over $50,000, and if it's strictly a public project, then it's considered BOLI, and prevailing wage comes into effect.
So there is a value of $50,000 that BOLI kicks in? I thought it was because it's a public building.
If it's a pure public project with no private investment, then $50,000 is where it starts.
Oh, okay.
So if it's under $50,000, then BOLI's not involved.
Not typically. However, there's a comfort zone there because you have change orders and things that occur during the project where it can elevate the cost. So sometimes agencies will bid it out as prevailing wage, even if it's $45,000, because they don't want BOLI to come back later and say, "Well, you went over that amount, and you're going to be fined or whatever is going to happen." So
Does Boley frown on phases of a project on the same property?
Yeah,
Yes.
they'll look at it. That's what they've done with the Cove. They looked at it as one project. So yeah, they would do that. So that's why I need time to go back and talk with the contractor to see how, if we can do anything as far as the pricing in the project or approach. If there's nothing we can work out, then I will need to go back and rebid it. And that's where we started having, that's where we had trouble to begin with, because when I bid the project, I had to do it twice. The first time I didn't get any response. The second time I got two, and the one bid was double, and the other bid was triple what our budget was. And they weren't including prevailing wage. So
Oh, it's so
Could you-
disappointing.
For my benefit, would you explain to me exactly what the Boley appeals are? I know it has to do with prevailing wages, but what is the threshold and how does that operate?
So it's $50,000 if it's purely a publicly funded project. If it's on public property, publicly funded, $50,000 means that it has to be competitively bid, and all the bids have to include prevailing wage, even with subcontractors. So none of that was. We competitively bid it the first time. We ended up getting this contractor by inviting him. We singled him out and brought him in and signed the agreement, because we've been out twice and we couldn't get any decent bids. So we were able to do that. This time we're going to have to competitively bid it and have up to 3 bids with prevailing wage. And so $50,000 is the minimum where it starts.
And does Boley check that the prevailing wages are actually paid?
I don't know that.
They
They
don't.
could come back and check our records to see if we bid it that way. But I don't know if they can go into the contractor's books and look to see if that's been done.
And it's, in the case of the Cove, it's Boley because the Urban Renewal Agency owns that land.
Owns the land, right, and there are several.
So even if it transfers into private ownership, that's not relevant.
It
Well,
could be.
it could be, because the land could be
Yeah.
considered a contribution. So there are several variables, or several elements where they can consider things as public contribution, like we paid for the consultants and architects at the beginning of the Cove for their work, for their design work. They're considering that as public contribution. Donation of the land, we sell it to them for $10. That's considered a public contribution based on the appraisal that's been done, and other factors. So, and the amount of infrastructure work that's being done that will come back over to the public side. So,
And I know you're a department of one, but
yeah,
I just don't, I'm just very frustrated with the whole thing.
and two.
Yes.
He might have a department of 10 and still be frustrated.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter how many staff that I would have in my department. This would still happen.
But the bottom line is, if it's Boley, the whole project could be 3 times the cost.
Yes.
Could be.
And so, I mean, the whole
Yeah.
Function
project.
of budget as much
The
as
budget,
Boley.
yeah, so, I mean, it might not even happen.
Well, unless it
That's
can be
what
done for
that's
under
what I'm
50.
thinking.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Is the reason that
Oh.
you're having challenges finding contractors because it's a historic building, or?
It's not a historic building.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know what the reason is. We're having trouble.
I mean, it's not on a historic inventory.
Right.
It's not that it's
right.
not historic.
Thank
Yes,
you.
let me clarify. It's not on historic inventory. Yeah.
But because it's old,
It's
might
old, so
scare-
it's historic.
Okay.
But
Project, peak season.
yeah, a lot of the
Lots of
contractors, they don't
reasons
want
why.
to tackle the small projects. So it could be where if we go out for bid another time, we could get some more interest there. I just don't know. It depends on the environment. There are some other approaches that we can look into, like the tenant's contribution, what he wants to do. If he wants to maybe pony up a little more in his budget to get some of these things done, we can reduce ours. So there's some negotiations that need to happen.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
We don't need a motion, do we? Just
No, I'll bring it back as soon as I can at a future meeting.
Okay, and our last agenda item is 4F 14-369, the Cove Infrastructure Plan.
Yes. This plan has been on display since March in the conference room upstairs by admin. And the expiration date was June 5th to review and approve. So I sent out requests for comments. I did receive comments for other items, but not for this particular one from the commission. So as we approached the expiration date, that was informally approved due to no other comments. So this is basically a formality just to get this formally approved for the DDA, since I heard no comments from the commission.
So you need a motion to approve the Cove Infrastructure Plan 14-369?
There might be a question.
I think Betty just motioned.
I motioned.
She motioned. I will second that.
I do have a question, though. Because I'm trying to understand what you need us to vote on, because the design standards that Renata and I commented on, we don't need a motion for that, but we do for the infrastructure.
You will. The deadline's not until August to have that officially approved for the design standards.
I see.
So this is based on the DDA and the requirements of the DDA. That this needs to be officially approved by the commission.
Okay.
There's some items that we distinguished earlier that, some are administrative, some are formally approved by the commission. This is one of those formal approvals that needs to occur.
Okay.
So.
Got it.
Motion passes unanimously.
Future agenda items, are there any? Okay, hearing.
I got a question before I suggest anything. Why is a mural necessarily a sign?
That's not my department.
Good thing we have an hour.
It's
just the way our code is written.
I'm pretty sure the city
Portland
talk about content.
Portland has had this issue too. A
What's
lot.
the content?
I will
See,
say
it doesn't necessarily advertise anything, and it doesn't direct you anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
like I said, it's just the way our code is written, and it's something that's going to have to. It'd have to be a code change. So that's what starts in planning. I will have you know that we do look at the murals in our review of the facade grants, and Mr. Blendheim. On 10th and Main, there was a mural there on the side of his building. We took that down piece by piece, and we've got it stored. So just in case it could be repaired at a later date, but it's in pretty rough shape.
Yeah.
So,
that
but
one's
we still have it. They haven't gotten rid of it yet. So.
Okay, hearing no future agenda items, city manager's report.
Nothing to report tonight.